And we're live with Peter Onorati. Peter, I am so
Hey,
happy to see you again. It's been too long.
yeah, way too long. And we missed Italy together. We could have gone together.
Oh my God. And you've had so many mitzvahs in your did you go with the family? Did you
Yeah, well, it was a big birthday for me, so I took the whole family, all the
oh
boys and all their wives last year, and we went and spent time with my cousins in Frosinone, and they treated us, like king.
wait, where are your family?
My father's family is from a town hours south of Rome called Frosinone. And my father's mother is from Abruzzo, but my mother's family is from further south, like Naples. It's called Potenza, is the province, a town called Murulucano. But I had been I'd been back 6 years ago for my anniversary, hooked up with one of my cousins, and she runs the Astor Hotel. The family actually has a hotel there, but it's defunct. Some cousin with a drug problem got it, but it's all
Ay, ay,
abandoned.
ay.
And I had been there back in the 70s. It was beautiful. But so so this particular cousin, my cousin Yolanda, her last name was Bracaglia, and that's become family name. The matriarch Yolanda Onorati married into the Bracaglia family. So anyway, and then there's the Fiorinis who own two pasta restaurants. And anyway, so this was the thing. So I said to my cousin Yolanda when we were coming out, I said, listen, last time we were there, our other cousin, Evangelisto Bracaglia, had a restaurant. And he said, come to my restaurant for dinner. This is 6 years ago. I said, okay. So we walked, across the street from where we were staying in Frosinone and up the street to his restaurant. He closed the restaurant down. He had 60 of my cousins and relatives there. He served
Oh,
us a 7 course dinner. And there's these two old Italian ladies sitting next to me. I had to cry now.
oh,
These two old Italian ladies sitting next to me the whole dinner. And at the end of the dinner, they hand me a picture of them with my father back in the
oh,
70s.
oh God.
So I told my cousin Yolanda, I said, listen, I'm coming with 8 people now. I want to go to Evangelista's restaurant, but I don't want you to close it. I don't want a 7 course dinner. I don't want any of that shit. Okay. Just want to come and have dinner at the restaurant. She goes, oh, you want to insult him? I don't want to insult him, but it's not 2 people, it's 8 people, right? And then
Oh,
up in the mountain, the little town of Bovilernica is where my grandfather actually was born, and I had seen that house 6 years
now,
ago.
so now wait, set the scene for us. Where is this kind of in the
So
scheme
this
of
is an hour south of Rome.
oh,
Frosinone is an hour south of Rome, but up in the mountain is one of the most beautiful villages in Italy. Just rated that, called Bovilernica. And my grandfather, Sebastiano Onorati, was born in a farmhouse in Bovilernica. So,
is this the grandfather with the Victrola?
no, that's my
Other
mother's.
grandfather.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
my mother's father. So 6 years ago, I went up there and we saw where my grandfather was born. Well, my son's name, my oldest son, Sonny, his real name is Sebastiano. He's named after my grandfather.
Right.
So I said, we want to go up, and there's an Onorati living there. He's a dentist. His name is Bruno, and he redid the whole place. So I said, please tell Bruno, we don't want anything special. I just want my son to see where his great grandfather was born. She goes, oh, you want to insult him too? I said, no, I'm not trying to insult anybody. And sure, we get up there and they got a canopy outside. They got prosecco. They got all kinds of fruit. They got everything. And then we're supposed to have lunch, down the mountain back in Frosinone. So but they just were so wonderful to me, and I loved them. And they have a little house in a beach town close. It's called Terracina, which is funny because I drink martinis now once in a while. Ever since my father um, retired, he never drank. When he retired, he was like, "Hey, want a martini?" I go, "I don't drink that shit." He goes, "I made you one." I went, "Okay, Pop, I'll drink a martini." So I started drinking martinis and reminding my father. So we're down in their beach house in Terracina, and somebody says
I
to me,
just want to hear you say all these names. I don't know where they are. I don't know what they mean. I want to hear you say them.
one of the cousins says, "You want a martini?" I said, "Yeah." You got a oh, shit? Yeah, I'll take a martini. Well, they poured a glass of prosecco, and they poured martini and Rossi red vermouth in the prosecco, and
Ooh.
I said, "Okay, thanks." So now we call it Terracini Martini. It's
Oh,
the prosecco with the red, and it's
well,
nice. It's a nice drink, actually. It's a nice like summer drink. But it was very funny. And so, but this last trip to Italy was just amazing. We went first. We saw the cousins.
wait, had your boys been there before?
No, 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 no. And
No.
this is the thing. I told my sons, I said, I'm taking everybody. This is a big birthday for me. I'm taking everybody to Italy. Well, my one son says, well, we never seen my wife's family's ancestral home in Scotland. We never. The other one says, well, this is going to be our last time before we have a baby. The other one says, well, my wife's people have a place in Mar. I went, fuck you. Okay. I said,
Good
you
for
know what my
you.
father would say if I said I'm paying all expenses for you to Italy and you come with me with this shit? I said, I'll tell you what, I'll pay your way over there. You see your cousins, and then the hell with you for the rest of the trip, you know? Well, they stay with us the whole time.
Of
But
course.
the cousins, even though we saw places like Ravello and Lago Maggiore
Mm.
and all these places, they loved being with the cousins so much.
Oh,
One of the cousins owns two pasta restaurants, one in Frosinone, but one up in the mountains. And we had come back from a day seeing the beautiful Benedictine monks, the place where the Benedictine monks were created. And they had another pasta restaurant in the mountains. Again, 60 relatives sitting there. All of a sudden, a thunderstorm. We're all covered. It's just this beautiful, magical time.
oh
And
my
my
God.
cousins gave all my daughter-in-laws little jewelry and stuff. It was just and I'm sitting there bawling, because I've got this sense of roots and all this stuff. And kids are looking at me like, what's wrong with you? you know?
Had
So
they met any of this family before?
no, never
None
before.
of
And
it.
that's why I said, you come on this trip, you meet your cousins, because if you ever want to go back and you're not going back with me, you'll know them.
Absolutely.
And boy, they want to go back and see their cousins, even beyond Ravello and Maggiore and Como.
And were there cousins that were similar age and
Some were.
uh-huh.
In fact, one of the cousins, we got a job. He was a DP, not a DP. He was a cameraman in Rome, and he had come to this place in the mountains for the dinner. Uh, Carlo was his name, and I have a friend whose husband is an Italian national, but he's a UPM here. Uh, but they have an apartment in Rome. So I said, you know what? Let me just introduce you to Angela and Michele. And he ended up getting a job through that. So, we're in. We're in. It was great. It was just phenomenal. And then we left and we went to Ravello and that's
Ravello is so gorgeous,
Ravello is
so
just
gorgeous.
just
The way you were describing Ravello to me as being so empty at night, that's the way Venice is now.
yeah, yeah,
Because people, our guide was explaining to us that people can't afford to stay in Venice. So they
yeah,
take the day trips and they come. And at night, we went out the first night. We
yeah,
were the only ones in
yeah,
St. Marco. We were the only ones there.
yeah. Well, that's because they're afraid that the piazza is going to flood, so they want to get out of there, at
Well,
night.
that's true too.
But that's what that was the beauty of Ravello, like we were talking about. Ravello doesn't have a beach. Everything else on Amalfi has a beach.
Right.
Ravello's on the top of the mountain, and tourists come up, and you can walk down. We walked down to the beach, Jeanette and I, half-hour walk, great walk down. We took the bus back up because if you're swimming at the beach and stuff, you get kind of tired. But it's just It's a magical place, and
It's a magical place.
yeah,
And so did you know, all right, so before you traveled, we went for a month to Italy. It was a lot of work.
that's
Where to
fantastic.
go eat, the restaurants, the hotel, all of that was a lot of work. Did you do research before you went, or did you just lean on your cousins?
No, I did well. I had connections. So I had my cousins.
Right.
I did research on Ravello because I didn't stay because it was 8 of us now, and the last time that we had stayed was a little B and B, Jeanette and I, um, and we found this other hotel. But after that, we went to Naples and we took the bullet train to Milano, and then the rental cars to Lago Maggiore, where a family friend gave us his 4-room mini villa right on Lago Maggiore. So we spent a week on Lago Maggiore as well, and and you know, and that was just fantastic. This guy is a professor he's a retired professor at the Institute in Milano, and he was friends with my wife's father, and he was visiting, because he was a visiting professor at UCSB, and he got to know Jeanette's father, Jack. And at one point
That's
in the past,
crazy.
yeah, and at one point in the past, he was coming down to fly out, and he didn't want to take the trip all the way down from Santa Barbara, so he stayed with us at my house. And so he said, "Well, you have to come and stay with me now." And he has this family villa that he bought during World War II in Lago
Wow.
Maggiore. So they got it for a song, and then they bought this other mini villa which is adjacent to it. So it was the whole trip was pretty magical. Yeah.
Okay, so just highlights like best food, best meal you had in Italy. Like, what's the best food you ate there?
So that's kind of a three-way tie.
Okay,
The boys and their wives bought me a cooking class up above
nice.
Amalfi. So it's called Amalfi Heaven's Gardens. If anybody wants to look it up, it's a great place. It's an all outdoor place. They have their own gardens and everything else. But you take a
Oh,
cab,
so it's farm to table kind of thing?
sort of, yeah, yeah. But we just drank white wine and we made this gnocchi and we made this other sort of checca, with fresh tomatoes and everything from there. So
Mm.
overlooking all of Amalfi, you know. And so
Hmm.
that because we all cooked it, we all sat down together at this gang table. That was an amazing meal.
Mm.
One of the other amazing meals was in our last day in Italy before we flew back. We stayed in Rome, and there was a place. There's a little place off the Spanish Stairs.
Oh, you told me, I think you
I
wrote me
told you,
about,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we didn't. Okay, what was
And
it?
I think it was called Truffle House, but there's a couple truffle restaurants in a row, and we just sat at this one. In fact, one of my ancient friends, she's not ancient, but our friendship is. We took the very few hours of acting classes that I took back in New York. This woman, Mary Citrakian is her name. She just wrote a great book. It's called Sing, Find Your Own Voice. You and actually it's going off the charts.
Wow.
She coached Nicole Kidman. She coached a
Wow.
lot of people. She became, she's a singer, but when I knew her, it was an actress sort of thing. And so she was in
Sticky
Rome
fingers.
at the time. So
Just by chance.
well, she was giving class. She was giving a class in
Wow.
Rome. She actually has part of an apartment in Rome. So so we met her, but we had already eaten at this place, unfortunately, because I would have loved to have taken her. I think it was called the Truffle House. I still have the video. I can find it out later. I'll give you the real information. But we sat down in this restaurant, and the guy poured a half a bottle of wine. Um, I forget the name, but I'll see it in the video. In this, it was about a 3 foot decanter. It went round and round and round, and then he served us a risotto with shaved truffles,
Truffle.
but they weren't cheap with the truffles. And I want to tell you something. If you, I've never had anything like that. I had truffles once before. A really interesting story. Good buddy of mine, Barry Schusterman from the Bronx. We met out here. He was friends with a major media person in Germany, Tommy Kirsch, the Kirsch media empire in Germany, Sat9, all this stuff. So Tommy Kirsch was a personal friend with my buddy from the Bronx, Barry Schusterman. So he comes out here, and Tommy came and had bagels.
This is not your Siamese twin from your
no. That's
no,
Gary
okay.
Richmond. That's
Okay.
Gary Richmond. So Tommy Kirsch, no Barry Schusterman yet. No, Barry's like, the kids all quote Barry's like, you don't make left-hand turns in California. Right? So Barry, out of some strange set of circumstances, becomes friends with this multi-millionaire Tommy Kirsch. And every time he comes to LA, calls Barry, Barry takes him around. So Barry gets invited to Tommy's castle in Germany.
Castle.
Yes. And he stays, and Tommy says, we're going to go truffle hunting. Barry goes, okay, whatever you want, I'll do it. Right. So
that's a good accent. That's where my brother talks.
Yeah. Right. So Barry comes back from his trip, and he's worried stiff because his luggage is kept in customs, and he has a truffle about the size of my fist packed in, like a foil wrap.
Is it illegal to bring truffles?
Yeah, it's illegal to bring any kind of, stuff like that.
Food, right? You can't bring food.
Yeah. So he finally, they said, oh, sorry, Mr. Schusterman, and they deliver everything to his house, right? So he says, hey, I got this truffle. I don't know what you want to do with it. So there was a great restaurant, it's gone now, called Mezzamundo on Ventura Boulevard. And Elio was the owner. And I said, Elio, my friend has this truffle. He goes, what? I said, I'm going to bring it to you, right? We bring it to him. He looks at the truffle. He almost has a heart attack. He goes, you don't know what this is? I said, I kind of know what it is. He goes, I'm going to keep it for you. I'm going to keep it packed in arboreal rice. When you want to eat it, you call me and we'll eat it, right? So I call him. I said, okay, I'm bringing Barry over. We're going to have a look. He sits down with us. He bought all the wine. And this truffle was probably worth about $1,000 at the time. This is
right
20 years ago, maybe, right? And he makes this risotto and he shaves, this. Oh my God. It was amazing. So,
oh my God.
That was
First of all, I fell madly in love with Rome. I had never been there before, and Rome just took my breath away.
Rome is, yeah.
I mean, we spent 9 days in Florence, and I got to say, I love Florence, but Rome is very special, and especially for a New Yorker, Rome really felt like home, right? It does. It feels like home.
The same kind of neighborhoods,
it has like a vibe.
Yeah.
It has an energy and a vibe, a lot like it reminded me of New York in a lot of ways. But it's really funny. The eating in Rome, I found really funny because bread is in a bag. Do you know that?
Yeah.
They bring you the bread in a bag. They put it down. It's not heated up. There's no butter. The bread is in a bag.
No.
It's just and the restaurants are very well lit. There's not a lot of atmosphere in the restaurants in Rome. It's very interesting.
It's about the food. Unless you go to a wine bar or something like that and you have charcuterie, whatever it is.
Yeah, we didn't eat posh. We ate like trattorias and stuff.
That's all we did, When we were in I was talking to you about Positano. We had this great lunch in Positano, right? And I think I told you that right at that time that we were there, SWAT had broken on Netflix.
By the way, somebody's asking right now, will you be staying with SWAT?
Oh, if they call me, I'm retired, so I mean, I'd love to come back. I would love to come back in a greater capacity, but I think they're pretty done with me. Maybe I'll do one episode a season, if whatever. But it was a great job. It was a great money job. It wasn't too much acting required, The acting was,
How so?
when it's an action show like that, you hit your mark, you deliver your lines, you get the stunt down, and you move on. As opposed to a show that I was doing at the same time, which was This Is Us, which was a deeply, deeply disturbed character that I hoped would not be hated and wasn't hated for.
No, you made him very empathetic. You made him
Yes.
empathetic.
And one of the reasons for that was, it's really interesting. There was a husband and wife directing team that did one episode, and this was the first episode where you find out that he has a brother, Nicky. We drive. I'm taking them fishing, and we drive to this bait shop.
Right.
This bait shop has beer, and I end up staying in the damn bait shop, and they're in the car, right? So these two directors go, "What a piece of shit you are! What about you stay in the car?" I say, "Excuse me, you're looking at this through the prism of 2010s and 20s. My father and his brother had a small construction company in New Jersey. When my father took me out on an estimate, I stayed in that car sometimes for an hour. So this guy, aside from the booze, was a regular 1950s, 1960s dad.
Right.
And that's the way they did things. They brought the paycheck home, they put it on the table. Some of them had a drink, some of them, like my father, didn't. But that's the way they were. You can't look at that through this same prism. And what really pisses me off about This Is Us is there's this great episode when Nikki is being born, and my father comes, played by Michael Ironside, who's a wonderful actor. We had done, actually, years ago, we had done Walker, Texas Ranger together. He was a bad guy. And he comes into the delivery, the waiting room, and he says to me, "You want a drink?" And I say to him, "Come on, Dad. You know I don't drink." Which is such a wonderful piece about this guy. But because it wasn't a main character, they never paid tribute to what it was that made me become a drinker. They just, it was just.
That would have been something. That would have been a great thing to do.
Would have been a great thing to resolve his character in the end. But I understand, as an actor, being in this business now for almost 40 years, that my character was there to facilitate the lead. My character was there to tell the story of This Is Us. The entire story of This Is Us is this to me. We all have these things that happen to us in our lives. This shit happens to everybody. Some people let it rule their life and they die with it. Some people rise above it and learn how to carry on. And that was Jack's character. So you needed Stanley to be this guy that Jack rose above. But how much more interesting to see why Stanley became that.
Oh, it totally. This Is Us didn't need to end. There were so many storylines that could have continued from there.
That was great. But to me, again, that was an acting show. I didn't get paid much for that. SWAT was a series regular role. That's what I paid for my furniture and my kids' college and everything else. That's what SWAT was. But the unfortunate thing about SWAT, about me leaving SWAT, in my estimation, and some people have written me about this too, my character was the only one with the gravitas to be able to challenge Shamar. Everybody else who's above him, he has to acquiesce to because they are his superior officers. I was superior only in age and experience. And so there was this great dynamic of new school, old school, methods of policing, and it gave Shamar a chance to act and not react or just be, climbing out of helicopters and doing all that shit. and we had great fun working together. And he was great to me. And but that's what was missing from SWAT when my character left. That little bit of gravitas and challenge to Shamar's character.
Mm. I remember that was like a breakthrough for you that you kind of alluded to at the end of the last time we chatted, that you had had an experience with ER, that you had kind of gotten blacklisted on that network, right?
We can say his name now.
Oh, okay.
Les Moonves and I had a problem. He wanted me to do a show that I told him I wasn't going to do, even though I did the pilot, because my kids were 4 years old and 2 years old, and this show was in Portland. And I said, I'm not going away. I'm not going to go to Portland for 22
Why,
months.
why at that age could you not have taken your kids? Was it because Jeanette was working down here?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Jeanette was
Yeah.
here. Kids
Mm-hmm.
were here.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what they said to me too. Well, move your wife. I said, no, my wife has a job.
She
My
has a
wife's a
life.
writer.
Yeah.
She's a writer producer. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I'm not, but I had told them that when they asked me to do the pilot, which
Right.
the connection was, without getting too complicated about the whole thing, the connection was they were going to present me as one of their top choices for ER if I did this pilot for them in Portland. I said, great, that's great for me. And then the whole thing just, without all the specifics, the whole thing just blew up.
Mm.
Even so much as there was another pilot that came along, and I didn't know about this till years later because I met the writers. These two writers wrote a pilot. They were running Sequest for Spielberg. They wrote this pilot, and they wanted me to star in it. And so they went to CBS, they went to Warner Brothers, where Moonves was at the time, and they said, by the way, for your audience, this is the kind of story that I tell actors that I coach sometimes, because this kind of story is a business story that will tell you that if you survive, if you stay in the business after this kind of story, then you're meant to be in the business. Okay?
Yeah.
Um, so, um, so this other pilot came up. These two guys went to Moonves and to Warner Bros. And said, "We want Peter Onorati." And Moonves said, "No, he's doing Under Suspicion," was the name of the show. He's with Karen Silas, beautiful actress, wonderful person. Um, and so I said, and so Moonves said, "No, no, no, he's doing Under Suspicion," which I already told him I wasn't doing. So these two guys told me that George Clooney signed on to do their pilot. The pilot went to network. It came back with only punctuation changes. Clooney calls them up and says, "Guys, this isn't the pilot I signed on to do." They went, "What are you talking about? It's only punctuation changes. There's nothing different." Well, I believe that during that time, Clooney got offered ER.
Ah.
See? So there's some really cool, I'll tell you off air sometimes, some really cool inter
Side stories. Yeah, yeah.
stories about them telling, when my audition for ER was coming up, and they said, "Well, we need you to come in." Just
Do you know which character you were up
I
for?
don't, because here's the thing. So I was doing the pilot for Under Suspicion. They flew me back to meet with John Wells and Michael Crichton. Okay. I'm supposed to fly back to finish the pilot for Under Suspicion. So this is a Wednesday. Thursday, I get the call from my agents. They say, "You have to test for ER." I said, "Okay, I'll test." But I'm going back to do what they said was a favor for them to do Under Suspicion. So
Right.
a week from today, Thursday, next Thursday, I will come and test for ER because I'll be done up in Portland.
Right.
They said, "Okay." The next day, Friday, I'm flying out to Portland just in like 3 hours. They call me and they say, "Oh, you have to test today." I go, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, it's between you and Tony Edwards." I go, "No, it's not. There's no way you want Tony Edwards or me. We're not the same person." Okay. So my opinion is that in the middle, because at the time Clooney and I were sort of the same casting realm, you know,
Right.
and he had put as many pilots to sleep as I had, you know, and I really believe that Clooney did maybe the role that they were thinking before. I don't know, but I said, there's no way you want Anthony Edwards and me in the same role. That's bull. I said, you tell them I'm a man of my word. I made an appointment for next Thursday. I'll be there next Thursday. They said, well, we don't think you'll get it if you don't test today. I go, you know what? I'm not going to get it because you either want Tony Edwards or you want me. That's bullshit, right? So the whole thing went away, and from that, Mister You Know Who put out the word. This is I was told by people at CBS, and but I could not do a lead in a CBS show, and that it took 26 years for me to get a series regular on a CBS show. And I
Wow.
did guest start. I guest starred my ass off on CBS, but I could not get a lead.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so go back to the Positano story. So you're
Yeah.
in
So
Positano,
Positano.
Mr.
So I'm in Positano. We had this great lunch with my son and his wife. And we're coming down and we're waiting for the ferry to get to Amalfi so that we can then take the bus up to Ravello. I said to Jeanette, I said, you know what? I'm going to get some gelato. I'm not going to wait for the ferry sitting here baking. Right? So I go and I sit down at this little outdoor thing. The actual restaurant was in a building, but they had an outdoor seating thing across the piazza. So this guy's looking at me and he goes, uh, and he leaves and he goes in and he's got another guy that's his trainee. And he's looking at me and he's pointing at me like this, right? And he comes out and he goes, you SWAT. I said, yeah, I'm SWAT. He goes, oh, I want to take a picture. And I'm going to take a picture. And the trainee goes, I want to take a picture too. And they're taking pictures like this, right? This one woman comes by and I'm friends with her on Facebook now. She's from Belgium. She goes, oh my God, my daughter loves SWAT. May I take a picture with you? So I'm taking a picture with her, right? And this other guy comes by. Here's the kicker. This other guy comes by. He goes, I want a picture too. Who are you?
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Loved it. I loved it. And when we got to Ravello, I told you this guy comes up to me. He goes, Signor Onorati, questa idea. It was a picture. He says to me, he goes, oh, I love a SWAT. I want to take a picture. So he takes a picture. It was great. It was wonderful for my kids to see and all that stuff. And it's so funny that it broke on Netflix that week.
I
So
was going to ask you that how for your kids. We haven't talked about your kids in the past, and now so many mitzvahs. So a family, three sons. Now you have three daughters,
three
and
daughters-in-law, and I'm grandfather now.
oh my God. So,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
nonno. I am nonno.
No, no. Is that grandpa in Italian?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. And do you guys babysit?
yeah. We're babysitting right now. My son came down. And my son and his wife, and they're working, from home here during the day. So we're taking. Her name is Aviva.
Aviva.
Aviva, which is Jewish for springtime.
Jewish.
Yes, it's she Sylvia, my daughter-in-law, is Jewish, and yes, I believe it's springtime. It's Hebrew for springtime.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So, is it true what they say about being a grandparent, like the greatest thing there is?
For me so far, it's it's unbelievable. They live in Berkeley, so when I go,
Oh,
I've only seen her. This is the third time I've seen her only,
oh,
and so when I'm up there, I'm out of town. It's like a vacation. It's like part of the vacation. So it's not real to me, you know? When she's down here now at my house and she has two smiles, a real one and she has this fake one where she goes like this. She goes, it's like New Jersey. She goes, how you doing?
how old is she?
7 months,
How
you
you
know?
doing?
Yeah, how you doing? It's like, and she knows she's very smart and quite beautiful, and So it's a little more real now, but up until now, it's been just like a vacation thing. I don't
Right.
get, it's like the same thing being this far away from my parents having passed away like 5 years ago, but within 3 weeks of each other.
Mm.
That's still not real to me because I'm not there. I don't see the
Mhm.
gravestone like my brother does, who runs my father's company and who drives by it all. I don't, that's all far away. And it also makes me, at this point in my life, I'm trying to figure out where I want to spend my time. And I definitely want to spend time in my hometown of Boonton, New Jersey. And I also want to spend some time in Italy. And I bought my mother-in-law a house in Santa Barbara in
I
1990.
saw you were building something. Did you build?
Uh, I I build things. I build patios and stuff. And because I come from construction, so I know I'm actually a trained stonemason. My father trained me to be a stonemason. So I can do that stuff. And that's what I do in times when I have to tell you, there were times when acting was slow and I was out there building a slate patio with my music on, and Jeanette came out and I said, if I could do this and make as much money as I make acting, I would do this.
Mhm.
um, so that's my family heritage. They're all contractors, and my uncle was a carpenter. My father was a mason, and so I do that. I
And
do
not
that.
in the mob, which is just crazy.
Very close, but not. Yeah, I was just telling a story today. That, when the mob guys came around, I spent all my time when I worked at McCall's on Park Avenue. I spent all my time trying to convince people that you could be from New Jersey, your family could be in construction and not be in the mob. You know, and so I just said today that I was talking to my son's in-laws and was talking about the mob and how close it was and all that stuff. And there were some guys who came to my father at times and said, "Hey, you got." My father said, "It's me and my brother. We're like this big. What do you guys want? Come on." And they walked away. And then
Wow.
there was a point in my father's business where he bought Mack trucks and he hired to drive one of those trucks the son of a guy from the next town over who was, we believe, connected. So that guy ended up protecting my father as well. He said, "You hired my son, and his son was a great guy, and not at all like a mob guy or nothing. But that connection was enough
Right.
insulation, for my father. So, yeah. And in fact, it's really funny because all my relatives back in New Jersey go, "Hey, I'm glad you didn't do Sopranos. It makes us look like shit." I go, "I'm not glad I didn't do Sopranos." In fact, this is really odd. Last week, I got an email from my agents. They're doing a documentary on Sopranos. They wanted the rights to use my audition tape from 25 years ago for Tony Soprano.
Get out of here.
I'm like, who the hell keeps those tapes, first of all? And why do you want it? Because I auditioned for 3 roles in Sopranos and I never got hired. I auditioned for Tony Soprano. I auditioned for Richie Aprile. And the very last one, there wasn't even a breakdown put out. It was between me and Buscemi to play Tony B. And
Wow.
here's how much they changed the role to give it to Buscemi. When I read the scenes, Gandolfini, Tony Soprano says to Tony B, he goes, "Oh, you look like you've been working out. What are you gonna do?" So Tony B goes, "Well, I've been in prison for this long. Of course, what are you gonna do when you work out?" Well, all that shit went away when Buscemi got
Oh,
the role.
wow.
But yeah. So I'm wondering, you want my tape for what? I never worked on the show. And David Chase was from my area, New Jersey, right next.
Didn't you say that you think he based? I'm hearing a feedback. Is that, I don't know where that's coming from. Is your Facebook open? Is it
No,
talking? No, I
no.
don't know. I don't know where the feedback's coming from.
All right,
Anyway,
sorry.
didn't you say that David Chase, you think he based The Sopranos on a family that lived in the next town over from you?
No, David Chase actually lived, I believe, I was told he lived in Mountain Lakes. I didn't know him then, which is the next town over from me. But I believe the Sopranos were based on the Boiardo family from Livingston, New Jersey, which was very close to my hometown. In fact, we played Livingston in high school sports, and the Boiardos used to play golf at the Knoll Country Club, which is where I, not so much, but most of my friends used to caddy. So a bunch of my friends had caddied for the Boiardos, and they were, I believe, in fact, Tony Soprano's home that they filmed at, I believe, was in Livingston.
Wow.
And they filmed, and I just heard, they told me, everybody in town told me that they had filmed a bunch of scenes in Boonton, my hometown. But I believe that he based it on the Boiardos because that was sort of the closer New Jersey family.
I never even heard of that family till you brought them up.
Nope.
Under the radar. And I
Yeah.
always thought it was Boynton, Is Boynton different than Booton, what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a Boynton. Yeah, no, Boonton is the name of my town, but if you live there, you have to call it Boonton.
Boynton.
Boonton. It's like there's no
Okay,
end.
so a good old friend of mine that I've known for like, oh no, this is a different person. This is Billisini. Says,
Oh, really?
say hello from Cobby.
Yeah, that's my buddy Cobby. We grew up together. I used to eat spaghetti at his house on Thursday nights.
And Lynn Stewart is here. I love you, Lynn.
I love
So, all right. So, what I started to ask you, and I don't think I've ever asked you this before, were your kids aware, because they were little, you had success before? Actually, you were on your way to your first, tell us the story. Jeanette was about to give birth, and something very telling happened when you were on your way, right? To go to the hospital. What happened?
I was in New York. We had already moved out here, but I was on my first TV job, which was Kate and Alley, back in New York. We filmed at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and we finished the season. It was the last season. We finished on Thursday night in front of a live audience at the Ed Sullivan Theater. The next day, I had a 2:30 flight out of JFK to come back Friday for my son's projected birth on Monday. I get a call from my agents that I have a callback for Scorsese at Rockefeller Center at 12:30. At a 2:30 flight, at a 12:30 callback for Scorsese. So I called Jeanette and I said, "Hey, I hope the baby's late because I'm going to be late, right?" And it was actually St. Patrick's Day. You know what Rockefeller Center is like.
Oh my God.
It's all closed down and everything. So here's the fun part of the story, though. In those days, Scorsese was hiring for the small roles like I got, real mob guys or cops that chased real mob guys. So we all had the same scenes to read. And he would just pick a role for you, right? So I walk into the outer office, and there are these guys with silver sweatsuits and patent leather sneakers and smoking cigars, right? Guy looks at me and goes, "What are you reading for?" I go, "I got the signs for Sonny Bamboo." He goes, "You know him?" I go, "No, I don't know him." He goes, "I know him. You don't look nothing like him." I said, "Well, that's what they gave me." He goes, "All right, God bless you, kid." Right? So, oh shit. So now
That's hysterical.
Oh yeah. So now I got to go in and meet Scorsese, right? So I'm thinking because
So you've already had one audition. This is a callback. Oh my God. Peter is gone, and I hope he's coming back on. All right, everybody hang on, because I'm trusting that Peter's going to come back on. I'm going to text him right now and say, Peter, come back on. I don't know what happened to him. Peter, come back. That was weird, wasn't it? Oh my God, right in the middle of a Scorsese story. Peter, oh, come on, Peter, come back. God, I feel like that's happened to us recently, hasn't it? Somebody else disappeared. I feel like somebody, I don't want to say who because I might be wrong. Peter, come back. I'm going to call him now. Where are you, Peter? I don't know. Maybe we're going to call Peter on the phone.
I have no idea what happened.
Come back on, Peter. Click the link
Okay, I'm gonna
again.
try.
Okay. Okay, Peter's coming back on. So in the meantime, hi, everybody. Well, this will be a little interlude. So, all right, let me see what you guys are saying. It's okay, Vicki. When you guys were talking Italy and pasta, I had to run off and make some. Oh, I have to tell you, I'm really craving it now. I was just thinking in the backside of my brain that we're going to order some pasta tonight when I get off the air. So I'm reading your comments, but I kind of have been reading them. I must have put a contact in. I didn't think I did, but I must have, because I've been able to read sending good juju, bring back Peter. Yes, I know. He just has to sign back in because the room is open. So come on, Peter. Let me see if I don't know. He should be able to get in. Trouble? I don't know if he's having trouble getting back in. I can't end the show and restart. The room is open. He has to just come back in. Come back in, Peter. Oh no, where's Peter? I don't know what to do. We're open. We're open for business. So we just need Peter to come back in. Come on, Peter. So you guys want to talk to me while we're waiting for Peter? Do you have his laptop went dead. That's what it is. Okay. So he's trying to sign on. Okay, this is a lesson to all you kids at home that you have to make sure that you've got your laptop charged and plugged in when you do a Zoom. Okay, hurry. I just wrote hurry and it changed it to Harry. Did you guys hear that Biden has COVID and yeah, that he just tested positive? Ah, here he is. There you are. Oh, thank heavens. There you are. Okay, wait, we're seeing you from the side.
Yeah, no, I have to set this camera up.
All
Can you
right.
hear me though?
I can hear you.
I don't know what the hell happened there. That was stupid.
All right, at least you're back, so we're good. We can't see your head though.
Oh, geez, this is really handsome.
Oh, you're doing it on your phone?
It's on my it's on my desktop.
Oh, you're on your desktop now. All right, Peter's back. There you go.
So much. We'll see.
There you are.
Yeah. Better? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, except we don't have the top of your head. There you go. Okay, I can't remember what what were you telling us before?
We're talking about
Jeanette. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi, Jeanette. Vicki says hi.
Hi, Vicki.
Hi, I want to have you have to be on the show. We've talked about this before, but I'm serious. I want to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I don't have any.
I don't know. I love it.
So we're in the middle of the Scorsese thing.
Oh, right. Okay, so Jeanette's about to give birth.
Yeah. So, and these guys and these mob guys are like, hey, you don't look like him, right? So at the time, I'd only been in the business a couple of years, and
we have to talk about that too, because some people might not know that you started in a different world. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was a Park Avenue advertising executive, and I was used to making the meeting mine. So I'm walking into Scorsese and I'm thinking, how am I going to?
Okay, wait, Peter, what does that mean? Tell us what that means, making the meeting yours.
Control the meeting, control the, secure your place of value in that interaction,
So in an audition, when you are historically the actor's sort of at the mercy of the casting director and the director.
Yeah.
How can you give us an example of how you would make it yours?
Well, there's a couple ways. I'll tell you the rest of the Scorsese story, and you can see
Okay.
how you can also get in trouble doing it. So I scrambled, and and my training is only in improvisation. That's when I met Jeanette. We were in a crummy It was a great improvisation group, but in crummy little places all over New York,
Right.
17th Street Theater Lab, all those places. So I was used to improvising. So I'm going in and thinking, how am I gonna take control of this meeting from one of the greatest directors that ever lived?
That is balls to the walls.
Well, but it was a habit because of it being 12 years in the business world. I made the meeting mine. I did whatever I needed to do, whether it was my product or whatever it was. So my grandfather, the shoemaker, my mother's father, his name is Donato Scoresi. It's the exact same spelling as Scorsese without the S. So I made up a story. And I said to Scorsese, I said, listen, before we start, I got to ask you if we're related, because I said to my grandfather, Donato Scoresi, that I was going in to read for the great director, Martin Scorsese. And my grandfather said, wow, I thinks we have a cousin at one time, which should take the S out of the name. Scorsese goes, really? Really? Because we can't find our relatives. I went, oh, I'm fucked now. I made the whole fucking thing up, right? So I go, well, where are you from? He goes, Sicily. I go, no fucking way. We're not Sicilians. He goes, what are you? I go, oh, we're Napolitans. He goes, you guys drink too early in the morning. You want to do this? I go, yeah, let's do it. And I read the scene, and he found a part for me.
Wow.
So, making the meeting yours.
Lie.
When I coach, yeah, lie, right? Lie. Use whatever you got. When I coach people, I tell them, you go into a room, especially if you're me, you go into a room with three people that you are. You're the person you are. You're the actor who has a certain amount of career or doesn't. And you're the character that you came in there to play. And sometimes you have to negotiate all three before you can get to do your work, get to do what you've worked on so hard. Especially for me, sometimes people go, hey, how are the kids, or this and that. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this shit. I want to give you what I came here.
Right.
Or I saw you on SWAT, or I saw you on This Is Us. That work was, that's the career stuff. I said, and so I have to compartmentalize those things, be ready to answer those questions, and then say, here's what I came to do. So that's a lot about what's making a meeting mine.
Okay, so Peter, can you do that? How does that, we were talking before we came on the air, and you said you'd give me some examples of, now that things have transferred to online auditions, right? So can you do that can you do that?
I have a hard time doing it on self-tape. I miss, and I, to be honest with you, I have to get over this, because if I'm going to work in this business, it's the way it is now. But I hate self-tape, because there is a theatrical energy when you come in a room. I present physically a lot different than I am on camera. When I come in a room, I look like somebody who can beat you up.
Yes, you do. I felt your muscles.
And yet I can do a character that's a father, who's a caring father, and all that stuff. That physical and emotional juxtaposition that you see in the room doesn't happen on tape.
Right.
When I've coached people for auditions in the past, I've blown their minds. I'll say to them, do you care about this person? No, not really. I said, turn your back. Turn your back. Do this line, do these lines with your back to the camera. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, You don't give a shit about this person. Turn your back on him. You can't do that in a self-tape. You can do that in a room because the producers feel the energy. You'll see it on the tape. They'll have the tape later, but they'll feel the energy in the room. I teach what I call a sort of emotional geography. I don't teach. I've been asked to teach, but I don't. But I guess I coach. This emotional geography. There is an actual emotional component to geographical distance.
There's an emotional component to geographical distance.
Yes. If I'm doing a love scene with you and I'm really in love with you, I'm right there with you. I'm right in it. Our noses are going to touch. If I don't really love you and I'm doing this for some other reason, my head is a little bit off like this, and I'm thinking about all the other things in the world and what this is going to do to help me get those things. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's just a slight. In my life, I have this catalog of all the successes and all the failures and all the hurts and all the joys. And some of the hurts came from some of the closest moments with someone I was in love with, who just didn't hear me, turned their head at one of the most important points of what I was saying to them, bearing my soul, whatever it was.
Wow.
That distance, just that turn of a head sometimes. And you know what I learned this? I did a scene one time from, what was it? Was it a David Ray play? I can't remember. But the guy was telling somebody how much he loved their work and how much he loved. So I decided to do a physical choice. I came in and I'm supposed to be as honest as I can, telling this guy how much I love him, and I don't really care because I'm like an agent or something like that. So I came in with a nail file. And as I was telling him how much I loved him, I was doing my nail. And the teacher said, "That's fucking brilliant." And I said, "I didn't know," you know, but it was something to me that I had seen. Maybe I'd seen my mother do it to me when I was telling my mother something that was important, or she was supposed to be telling me something important to me, and she was doing. I don't know where I got it from,
right?
But that little geography, that little disconnect,
right,
is so important sometimes. And
you can't do that on a self-tape. A self-tape, you're here to hear.
Yeah, turn your head around a self-tape. What are you doing? You're seeing my bald spot. That's it. You know?
So what, okay, so you said we would talk about this. So I told you I just got this agent at 68, right? I did my first self-tape. It was the most horrible experience. I mean, even just learning the copy is torturous at this age.
Yeah.
So how do you approach it? So you get
there's another thing. There's another thing that gets lost in self-tapes.
What's that?
A lot of people, I have friends who come here and self-tape in my cellar. They'll do like 20 takes. I try to get it in the first take as if it was a regular audition situation.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will memorize the lines. They'll do the scene. I always was kind of off book in a room, but I always had the paper in my hand. And this is just my thoughts. I can't tell you from a casting agent's point of view,
right
about this. But if you're holding that paper in your hand, that means to those people that your work is not finished. And if you're doing good work and it's not yet finished, then they have a chance for their input to your work. And so all of a sudden there's this collaborative energy around your work that says, I can take this guy's work and I can make it work for my scene. The director's in the room, the casting agent's in the room, you know, and so it's an unfinished work, but it's work just the same, you know. And when I coach people in auditions, I coach them sometimes with 3 or 4 choices. I said, because not only is this good work to go through these choices, But when you get in a room, or when you get on a set and you get the job, and the director says, "Oh, I like choice A. I don't like B. I like C." You're already prepared. That work has been done already. So you've encompassed this scene with every possible perspective that there could be. Sometimes the director will surprise you. You'll have something else you haven't thought of. But most of the times, if you do your work, you've probably already covered his point of view.
Which is great, but in a self-tape, you don't get to do that.
No,
They also don't get to see the pages because they're
Nope.
only seeing this, right?
That's right.
And do you memorize when you self-tape?
I memorize as much as I can, but I still refer down to the page.
You will look down to the page.
That's my process. I can't
Mhm.
help but do that,
Mhm.
I can't help but do that. And I just had a speech the other day that was 2 pages long,
Oh,
and I had most of it memorized.
uh-huh.
But I did look down at it, just
Mhm.
security wise,
Right, right.
But I'm telling you something, if I could have given that speech in the room and not on tape, it would have looked a lot better.
Mhm.
So I don't know if they're ever going to go back, but that's
So even at your level, they're still making you do the self-tapes,
oh
huh?
sure. Casting agents now, new casting agents, they don't know me. I mean, they can look at my my tape. My agents will send
You're
my
real,
reel,
yeah.
or something. But I haven't really gotten anything off of that. And listen, I was going to tell you this story. Might have been 10 years ago, maybe more, maybe more. Yeah, I was on the board of Screen Actors Guild in 2003. And I got to know Mike Farrell really well. He's a friend, and he's a wonderful person and a tremendous actor.
He did Women Who Write years ago, came to my living room.
Okay.
Lovely, lovely man.
So this was a few years after that I went into an audition, and this guy comes up to me. He's getting ready to go in the room. He comes up to me and he says, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't have to audition." I said, "Go in and do your work." I said, "And wait for me after I'm done. I got a little story for you." He did his work. I went and did my work. He waited for me by the elevators. We got in the elevator. We're riding down. He goes, "What'd you want to tell me?" I said, "Last week, Mike Farrell had to audition for CSI." Okay? I said, "We are actors. That is what we do. If it's part of who we are, it's part of the job." I never looked at anything. I never looked at my career from a place where, I shouldn't be auditioning for. There are times when my agents or my managers will say, "You're not going in for this. We're going to send tape." I go, "You guys are the experts. That's what I pay you 10% for." Okay.
Right.
I have never said that. I've never said that. I'll audition for anybody. If I like the role.
Lynn asked a personal question that I'm going to get to, but I have to ask this question because we've never talked about it. My favorite, I love everything you've done. I was a Civil Wars fan. This is all of it, but Cop Rock for me is everything. And, it was so ahead of its time. And Mike Finnegan,
Yeah.
I got to know Mike before he passed. And Kathleen Milhoit is a dear friend of mine. And
Kathleen was born the same day as Jeanette, and they're both from Santa Barbara. And
that's crazy.
Kathleen was coming up singing, Jeanette was a singer. Kathleen was coming up singing. They say, "You remind me of Jeanette Collins."
Wow.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. Now I know that you don't fancy yourself a singer, but wait, there was something that you did that had singing in it before. Oh, you were doing improv and you were singing with your partner, weren't you? Like, I remember you telling an Uncle Floyd story. Uncle Floyd actually was, I presented him years ago, but didn't you do singing improv?
I did. I did one number in our improv show. I did "Am I Blue?" And then I had created this character with my partner, Gary Richmond of the Kippermans, the Hasidic Siamese twin that played the guitar. So we sang in that, and so I did some singing, but I sang at a couple friends' weddings. A college buddy asked me to sing at his wedding, but I don't have a trained voice. I was one of the only ones on Cop Rock that didn't have a trained voice. And here's an interesting story. So I went to Steven.
Yeah.
And I said, you know,
how did you get it without you can't keep a good man down is just fantastic, by the way. But how did you get why would they pick you when they could have had all these singing actors? Why did they
ended up wanting actors who could sing rather than
singers who could act?
Yeah, yeah. And Bobby, I think, was the only one who had ever done Broadway before. Jimmy McDaniels had done Lincoln Center.
Although Finnegan was a musician.
Who?
And Mike Finnegan was a musician.
Yeah.
And also Kathleen was she was both.
Well, Kathleen was one of the only ones that got to write her own song after she did, the first 2 numbers. She wrote a song and brought it in. She's so talented.
Oh, yes, she is.
In fact, her last song in that pilot, to me, singing that Randy Newman lullaby, is one of the best moments in television history.
It's
and
gorgeous.
I will still say. In fact, I always wanted to get an Emmy so that I could stand up at the end of my speech and say, by the way, Cop Rock is the best thing I ever did. Thank you. Good night. But I auditioned. Well, LaRusso was not supposed to be a regular character. It was supposed to be like I'm this actor who comes out from New York. I get a shot at a Botchko show. But I want to be a feature actor like everybody else who comes out, right? And in those days, they looked down upon TV actors in terms of features. So LaRusso was supposed to do 4 episodes, sing a love song to his gun, and blow his head off.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, what a great way to go out of television. A film actor, right? And so I went in, I did, the auditions, and then came the singing auditions. And I picked something so simple. I picked Blue Monday by Fats Domino, right? And
how did you train for your singing audition?
I didn't. I didn't. You know what I did? I will say this. When Jeanette first convinced me to become an actor, there was a musical at the public theater, and somehow they got my picture from my commercial agent. It was called Lenny and the Cruiser, something like that. Anyway, I got an audition for the public theater, and I had to sing. Right? It was a musical, so I'm like, shit. I don't know how to sing. I mean, I sang at my friend's wedding. So there was a woman. I should remember her name now. In New York, and a friend of mine who was an acting teacher at the time, because I think I was just out of the business world, said Devora Vlatkovich was her name. Go to her, right? So on the weekend, I go to this woman, and she says, "Oh no, you could sing." I go, I said, I can imitate singers, So you had to sing a ballad and an up-tempo, right? Well, Devora and Jeanette all said, get something that you know from the radio so you don't have to worry about it. You're only going to do a couple bars. So I had She Works Hard for the Money, Donna Summer.
I love it.
And I had Every Step You Take from Sting, right? So I go, what do I do? Jeanette says, just go in and make like you're in front of the bathroom mirror, right? So I go in, and I do, She Works Hard for the Money, right? And I unbutton my shirt, and because it's in the mirror, and I take my shirt off, right? And they go, wow. I go, okay, thank you. And I start to walk out, and they go, don't you want to do a ballad? And I went, I don't have any more clothes to take off. I think they wanted to hear about it, but I walked out. I got the fuck out of there. I just
really,
I was so shit scared, And Sting was a little reach for me, but it was, so that was the only thing that I had done. And so going into to audition, Randy Newman was there, Mike Post was there,
Good friend of Snuffy's.
Yeah, and Mike's a great guy, and so I put the sheet music up for Blue Monday, right? And the piano player's going da 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 bom bom da 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 da. Mike Post goes, oh my god, what's the matter with you? This is Fats Domino. And I said, I stuck up for the guy. It's another improv. I went, Mike, get off him. It says Antoine Domino on the sheet music. He doesn't know who it is. So he finally started playing. So I'm like, Blue Monday, how I hate Blue Monday, and that's all, and I did 2 callbacks for singing because I don't think my singing was as strong as they would have wanted. But and in the middle, after I auditioned for LaRusso first, they called me back in to audition for Larry Joshua's role, the captain. And Larry was in New York. He got it from New York. But I was like, great, the captain is a regular role and LaRusso is going to go out,
Right.
But what ended up happening was that LaRusso tested so high in the pilot that ABC called and they made, and basically the 13 episodes that we did are all based around LaRusso's character, the whole. And I'm still good friends with Donnie Markowitz, who wrote, he won the Academy Award for Time of My Life. That writing staff had 2 Academy Award winners on it. Donnie Markowitz wrote Time of My Life for Dirty Dancing, and Amanda McBroom wrote The Rose.
Wow.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment.
It was an amazing show. It was so ahead of its time. They just didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to make of it.
Nope.
It was so brilliant.
At the upfronts where they sort of parade you around. So for viewers who don't know upfronts, they bring all the stars of the shows in for all the advertisers, and they play. That was when Twin Peaks came out the same year. Was it Twin Peaks? Yeah, Twin Peaks was on ABC at the same time. So they play to the end, and then they play Kathleen's last lullaby and selling her baby for adoption money. You could have heard a pin drop. And I was sitting
for drug money.
For drug money, right. $200 drug money. And I was sitting at the table with the Sioux City, Iowa affiliates who need to buy this show because it's right before their news. This guy leans over and he goes, oh, hell, she wouldn't sing when she sells her baby. And I went, okay, we're fucked.
Oh, God.
Right from the beginning,
Oh, God.
So, yeah. So the flyovers didn't get it, but it did really well in the urban areas, but it was a moment of my career that I couldn't.
And it's legend. It's iconic.
Yep.
And it also led you to Civil Wars, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's what and I had a couple other offers. I actually had an offer to do the commish. And Stephen Cannell, I had a meeting with Stephen Cannell. I said, Bochco, and Stephen Cannell and Stephen Bochco wrote together back in the day of MTM. They wrote Columbo's and all that stuff together, and they knew each other really well. And I remember Cannell saying, oh, no, you stay with Botch. You can do, But also, that's another thing. The commish was in Vancouver. And I said, I can't go to Vancouver. My kids are too young, He said, well, why, we'll move the family. I said, no, my wife's a writer. Jeanette was writing on, Jeanette and her partner, Mimi, were nominated for an Emmy on their first job here as writers. They were on the original writing staff of In Living Color.
Wow. All right. Speaking of Columbo, the last time we talked, and I asked you if there was something in your future that you'd like to do, you said that you'd like to do sort of a reimagining of Columbo. Is that still something that you
love to? I would still love to do that. I would still love to do that. A generational sort of presentation. But yeah, sure. And I watch them now. Sometimes in the afternoon, I watch some of the old Columbos, and I go, man, how brilliant!
But Peter, the way the world is now, the way you do it is you write it, right? You and Jeanette sit down and you write it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I could get somebody I probably could get somebody who's a more accepted writer than me to do it, because I've had a couple of accomplished writer showrunners on. I have written a couple of series and pitched a couple series with some big guns. I pitched with Bill D'Elia, who basically cut his teeth on my shows at Bochco and became executive producer for David Kelly, director of Boston Legal and a bunch of other stuff. In fact, he was the executive producer director on Robin Williams' last show. And Michael Chernichin, who ran Law and Order for a while. So I wrote a piece about two New York cops that are brothers. They looked at it and they go, let's pitch it. So we pitched it a couple places. The biggest guns I ever had going, and we didn't sell it. You know, it had a little music in it too. So I'll tell you that another time. I think I'm being
all right. Before you go, one story. Lynn asked if you'll tell the story about your mother and the band that was hired for your wedding. She said it's a great story. She wants to hear the story before you go.
So Jeanette was out here with her writing partner Mimi they had a character comedy that was much like Search for Intelligent Life. That's how they got their writing jobs out here. While I was back in New York preparing for our wedding and preparing our co-op in New York, renovating it. I was fighting with my mother about the wedding. I wanted to pay for it myself so we could do what we want. We had a disc jockey that I knew. And my mother kept saying, no, don't you want a band? Don't you want a band? I said, no, I don't want a friggin' band. I got a disc jockey. He's going to play your music and he's going to play my music and he's going to play everybody. It's just going to be fantastic. So she kept saying it. And I said, no. And Jeanette, who is raised in Santa Barbara, California ennui, goes, let her do what she wants. I go, no, you don't let my mother do what she wants. You do that now. That's it, So I stuck to it. The week before my wedding, on my machine in New York City, I get a message from this guy, Gupper, the disc jockey. He goes, I don't know how I did it, but I must have double booked. I can't do your wedding. Not, I'm a professional disc jockey. Here's somebody who can cover for me. That's it. The next message on my machine is from my mother. I hope you'll reconsider having a band. The Herb Daniels combo, which was one of my best friends in high school, his father ran a florist. It was, the Herb Daniels combo is not booked for next week. I'm sure my mother paid off this disc jockey and booked the Herb Daniels combo. My friend Larry Goldenberg and his dad, great guys. I loved them. But that's what happened. And Jeanette said, oh, I don't care. As long as they don't play New York, New York. That's the first fucking thing they played when we walked in. I went, see? Now give up, That's it was terrible. And then all my agents and all our friends from the business in New York, all our gay and lesbian friends, my mother stuck them all at the same table. And my uncles are going around, hey, look at the Broadway table over there.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hey, Broadway, how you doing?
Oh my. Peter, I love you. I could listen to your stories all night long. Thank you so much for doing this. It was great to see you again. I hope to see you in the real world soon.
That'd be fantastic.
And thank you so much.
All right,
Adore
sorry
you.
about the glitch.
No problem.